On today's show, we're joined by longtime NHLer, now analyst at the NHL Network. He's also a Twitter troll. His name is Jason Demers.
Jason tells us what he thinks about Tim Stützle, the Ottawa Senators, and we get into a little Four Nations talk.
Let's get into that on today's Locked On Sens.
This is Brady Tkachuk, and you're listening to the Locked On Senators podcast.
Your Locked On Senators, your daily podcast on the Ottawa Senators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome! You are locked on to the Ottawa Senators, the only daily podcast covering the Sens. On the outskirts of enemy territory, I'm Ross Levitan, alongside Brandon Piller up in the Blue Mountains. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. You can also follow the show on social media. We're at Sens Central on Twitter and LockedOn.Senators on Instagram. You can find us free and available everywhere you get podcasts, including on YouTube, where a like, comment, subscription go a long way to helping the show grow. Today is Thursday, October 24th, and Pilsy, the Ottawa Senators will be back on the ice today at practice. Tomorrow, 6 p.m. start against the Vegas Golden Knights.
Yep, this is a big one up against Vegas. Everybody knows Vegas has had the Sens number. They took Mark Stone from us, and it'd be nice.
They took our first round pick, too, in the next couple of years.
Yeah.
Well, they took it away from us. They don't get it, but they're liable, in my opinion, to the blame that we should be pointing at.
Yeah, sure. Let's go with that. But if the Ottawa Senators want to get 3 straight wins here to start the season off, they're going to have to knock down the Knights, a challenge that has been very difficult for them in the past, especially on the road in Vegas. But like we talked about, breaking that curse with the Utah Hockey Club because they had never been there before. Ross, you spin zone this game. It's an earlier game, even though it's on Pacific time. So hopefully that works in the Sens' favor.
The Ottawa Senators are 2-8-2 all time against the Vegas.
How about in Vegas?
Let's see. In Vegas, see if I can get this quick. 1-5 all time. 1-5 all time. But hey, there's no better way to break curses than do it consistently. They broke the curse of winning west of the Eastern time zone, and now they can go into a house of horrors and do their best to come out with 2 points. We'll get into a full game day preview tomorrow on the precast before the game. So stay tuned for that. But today we've got a great interview for you. It's NHL Network analyst Jason Demers. We get into a little Twitter beef that he and I discussed over the course of the last month and a whole lot more. Really good analyst. And unfortunately, I have to say, Pilsy, I came out of this interview a fan of his work.
Yeah, he's an absolute beauty, and I'm glad this worked out. And people on Twitter are right. They're saying good on him for deciding to show up after you guys went back and forth. And it's one of those things where on Twitter, you're like, oh, man, this guy's trolling me. I'm trolling him. I'm frustrated about it. But then it's nothing personal. You get on the pod and you just chat about it. And he ended up being a really good interview, and we're going to have him back for sure.
Yeah, we will. So here he is, Jason Demers.
Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Hey, NFL fans, you could start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same place where you place your bets. And if you're new to FanDuel, you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets, guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. So make sure to check out FanDuel for Thursday Night Football when the odds get put up for the Sens game up against the Vegas Golden Knights, and so much more. Whatever sports you want to get some action in, you can do it on FanDuel. Check it out today, guys. FanDuel.com.
Time, Jason, honestly.
No worries, man. We'll get into it. It's fun.
Buddy, that's what it's all about.
Yeah,
I've learned so much about having retired and now seeing, like, being at a lot of rinks, being in the finals, covering that, being in like the the pit in Edmonton, the Joey Moss pit in Edmonton, and it's crazy the fandom of watching people and like really having an appreciation of like, because fans are what makes everything go around in sports. Like they're the reason that you get paid. They're the reason that you get up for home games and you're able to live in cities and you get a lot of cool connections because you're known and you're a celebrity, a pseudo celebrity. So, but just seeing like grown men just absolutely like yourselves, which I still love it, but like that absolute like bleed, and you really see it and talk to people that it's their everything. And having a jersey on that is a kid who's like 18 years old, who's probably going to leave if he got more money somewhere else. Nothing against those guys, but just like the passion is, and I always knew it was there, but like being on the other side, I have such an appreciation for it now. So like I get into all these things on Twitter and make outlandish statements just because I love how fired up fans get and like take it so personal. Like when we were going at it, I'm like laughing because like people are like finding like from like when I played, like dropping a stick on my face. Like, oh, you flinched, you suck, you. And I'm just like, I love it.
It's great, man.
It's so good. And I mean, it's just, especially in hockey with like beat guys that cover the league, like, and guys on Twitter, I feel like there's not enough of that where, football and baseball have that where guys, the Stephen A's, they just go after guys and then guys come after them. And hockey is kind of, we're all really nice to each other. And the whole Tim Stützle thing, that was about as nice as I could frame that. And people took 90% of that tweet was positive. And then all I put was exaggeration. And it was like, I'm going to murder you. I don't ever talk about Timmy like that. And I was like, man, I said, he's a great player. He's an all-star. Just he exaggerates a little bit. And refs hate that. And then tagging Timmy Peel doesn't help either.
Oh yeah. That was the cherry on top. You're like, of all people you're going to tag Timmy, hey, Don Cherry was your next tag too, I bet, eh?
I mean, man, people get so mad if you reference Tim Peel at all, and it's so funny to me because, he was fine to me when I played, and I know I've heard the stories and everything, but, he was great with me, and I'll reach out to him every now and again, but it's just so funny because the guttural reaction people have to him is like I could have said, Timmy's the best player in the world. What do you think, Tim Peel? And they're like, what the? Never bring this guy's name up ever. So it was great. I love it though.
My favorite is like, because I think we're pretty similar. I love getting in the mix, and Pilsy calls it rolling around in the mud. But then I'm always doing it with a smile, never take it personally. But then you see like your buddies or other people's fans, and they all get in the mix, and it seems like they're taking it so seriously, like rooting you on, like, get him. It's so.
Oh, no. The people are like at home. Like the people, like obviously me and you were laughing, but everybody else on the thread was not. And we're like,
oh, yeah.
And we're like digging up like the worst moments of my career. It'd be like, you're a plug, you're a thing. And I'm like, I had pretty good numbers. I mean, listen, I played in some. I was like, hey, find it if you can get it. But it's just, people are bringing up me punching the ref. It was just, it's so good.
That's the perfect segue into introducing our guest. 700 games played in the National Hockey League, represented Canada at the 2022 Olympic Games. You can find him on NHL Network now. Jason Demers, welcome to Locked On Sens. Thanks for joining us.
I hate you too, sons of. No, what's up, boys? I'm happy to be on here. We played some phone tag, but getting on here, especially after a nice win against my Utah boys last night, I think is perfect timing for me to hop on and sing Tim Stützle's praises.
There you go.
So are you alumni for Utah? How's that work?
No, I'm still alumni for Arizona. So they, the NHL was gracious enough. They allowed the Arizona to keep the alumni and because we function within the community, that's, the ripple effects of the team leaving for youth hockey was, not something that was talked about or seen. And there's a lot of foundations that have popped up of the Coyotes alumni, especially trying to help kids and get donations and raise money because, the Coyotes, the one good thing the Morellos did is they did donate some money for the next few years for the youth hockey. But, them leaving is like a huge hole in terms of like it it ends up costing kids like an extra $2,500 a year in hockey and some number like that. And it's pretty staggering. So it's stories you don't hear about from the fans and people that supported the team and the kids. So we were allowed to kind of keep the Arizona alumni, and they do a fantastic job within the community. They're doing their golf tournament soon, and they raise a lot of money for the youth sports. So it's really cool. So, but no, I don't have any affiliation out to Utah other than I was at the home opener, and it was fantastic atmosphere. It was crazy.
Now, as someone that played in Arizona as long as you did, and you mentioned the community aspect of it, do you get a sense that hockey really could work there and it was growing and stuff? There was just issues, obviously, with the rink and the township and getting a business deal done. But as far as hockey in Arizona goes, how did you feel it was going in the desert?
Listen, the rink was. They had a smart idea, or they thought they did, trying to go into Glendale and hoping the community grew with them. It didn't. It took a lot longer. The community now in Glendale is really kind of exploding, and there's a lot of cool projects underway. So, if they were given another 10 years, yeah, but that's obviously the league just, too much stuff happened and they tried it and they kind of exhausted all options they could. And it can work though there. Like, most of the fans are in the Scottsdale area. And if it was in Scottsdale, it's a top 5, city in the United States of America in terms of population growth, all the economics of it. It can work. It just needs the right ownership behind it. And I think the right team. And I'm not saying that I don't think it's ever coming back, because I still am pretty optimistic that it will come back. It's just timing and how long are we going to wait, and will it even be the Coyotes? But I went to a couple events after and have been involved with the youth hockey community. Like, all the youth hockey coaches in the Valley are like 90% ex-NHLers. It was growing, especially once, Austin Matthews, Matthew Nyes kind of came out. But if you look at the talent, like those two guys that came out, Mark Kastelik in Boston's from
nice.
Phoenix, like
Sens legend.
There's Sens legend. Yeah. Look how good he's doing. What a fourth line that is in Boston.
Yeah,
Jesus.
it is. Some are saying it's their first line.
Right now it is, with their scoring's been horrendous, and it probably is their first line, which is the scary thing. But yeah, so I think it's just going to be all timing and where the rink goes. I mean, you guys know that, being Ottawa fans, like, the rink is everything. It means so much. If you're asking fans to commute 40, 50 minutes to a game, you're not going to get as much, consistent fan base coming as you get the diehards, but you need everybody. You need the people, you do need the casuals. As much as we make fun of them, you need the casuals that are like, hey, I'm in town in downtown Ottawa. Let's go out to a game because I'm here. Corporate, you get corporate sponsorships, things like that. So I think Ottawa's another team. Like, when they move that downtown, I think it's going to be night and day with that franchise. And
a lot of people say you were a Sens killer in your career, +8 in 13 games, 6 points against the Sens. But like, how much from a player's standpoint, when Sens you go killer. Right, when you get to the city where you're just driving through cornfields and you end up at that hotel out by the rink, like how much does it Brook Street Hotel?
Brook Street, yeah.
No free ads on this show, but yeah, out there. However, if you're downtown, like, how much does that sell a player who could potentially be a free agent or think about joining that team down the road?
I mean, it's huge. It's so impactful. And what's so funny is you read my stats, and then somebody was reading my stats against the Devils, and I'm like, every city where I couldn't go out to drink, I had great stats. I was like, Jesus, those weren't the stats in New York around, with the Islanders and stuff like that.
But stats weren't great, I assume.
+16 in 16 games against the Devils, by the way.
Yeah. Crazy. Like it makes a difference because, you fly into town, all you see is the hotel and the rink. And obviously, listen, we're there to do a job, but listen, we're also humans, and it's nice to kind of get in the mix and feel the city. And sometimes, you're lucky enough in certain cities in Canada, like Montreal, Toronto, where you can like walk to the rink and you see the fans and you can just feel the pulse. There's really no pulse. Like, you're showing up to this rink in Ottawa and the fans still show up, credit to them. But yeah, it's just like quieter. It's fans are driving in and driving out. So you might have less people drinking. which less raucous. It's more family friendly. But I just think when you're then going to sign a deal, unless you have a family and you're really like, hey, I just want to live in the burbs, which that happens with a lot of guys. But we're a younger man's league now, and the young guys need a little bit of action and need a little bit of closeness to restaurants, a little bit more easy quality of life, city life. So that could come into play. And I think ownership there, the new ownership's really going to make a move. And I think it starts with, they really need to make sure that the team on ice is performing, which hasn't in recent years. But if they do, I think it'll be perfect timing, and they just need to find the right piece of guys, group of guys to put together that kind of bring this thing along, because you don't want to buy a new rink, build a new rink, and then your team's dog. Like you want it to be trending in the right direction. So there's a buzz and you're really building towards it.
And now from your perspective, do you think the Senators are heading in that direction? Like a lot of the talk about this offseason is with new management, new coaching staff, a new kind of spin on the culture, not just trying to get a splash star player and hope they fix everything, focusing on building a team rather than just having a collection of stars. Do you think that the Ottawa Senators are at least heading in the right direction?
Well, they need to, because one, you're going to start losing a couple of those guys if they don't soon, namely Brady Tkachuk. I know Brady Tkachuk, after seeing his brother win, he's not going to wait around years over years if they're not doing anything and not making a concerted effort to kind of get to the right place. But they have the talent. It's just more, can all that talent stay healthy at the same time? Because we've seen it the last few years. They lose a couple guys that are integral to the team. And I was reading a stat at the network of like when Norris.
Look on the screen, buddy. We're a step ahead here.
There it is. I think I brought that up to you. Yeah,
there you go.
I brought that up on the network. I was reading that and I was like, that is such a great stat, because when they're healthy, they're so hard to beat. And you're seeing it this year. Obviously, I think Sanderson's passed Shabbat, and I would have probably I like Shabbat's game, and as a player, he's an NHL player, but I think keeping Chychrun over him would have been better. But just the way the numbers work, but Sanderson's a stud. You guys are missing Zub, but Zub I think is a great player, complements him well. I'd still like a little bit more on that back end, but getting Allmark is a huge piece for you moving forward. So it shows that the leadership group up top and the brain trust are moving in the right direction. But that Stützle Norris Pinto stat, like that is the one I'd be staring at as a fan, because when they're all together and playing in the same game, they are super dynamic and very hard to match up against, because they just have three lines of skill that can come at you. So, I really hope they stay healthy. It's a big key for them. And listen, on that Atlantic, if you look, let's look at the Atlantic right now. You got Tampa, Toronto, those two, Florida, and then that 4 spot's kind of up for grabs. But I could even argue that, like, you don't know what Tampa's quite going to do. They've been a little bit helter-skelter to start the year. Like, it might be a battle between Ottawa and Tampa down the stretch. I think Toronto will kind of pull away, especially with, Stolar's coming out of nowhere and being just an absolute stud, which they need. But I think it's going to be between Ottawa and Tampa. And I mean, there's a path, there's a doorway there. And I think the other teams in the Atlantic below them, the Montreals and the Buffaloes, they're beatable, and they're going to have to make sure that they take care of business within the division. And, if they can do that, I think, we all have them at the net, like Rupper, me, Boiler, Schneider. We all say the same thing every year. We're like, we've been on the Ottawa train every year, and like Buffalo, and they've constantly shot us in the foot to we're like, hey, you guys just prove it to us. And once you get there, we're going to be like, hey, we're on board. Let's go. Because we all like having Brady Tkachuk, just simply Brady Tkachuk in the playoffs in a playoff format is must-see TV. Like,
well, not only him, but I know, and we can get into it a bit, but Tim Stützle, and I know his reputation around the league. That guy plays hard. He plays hard and physical hockey.
No, he's not afraid. And we'll get into Tim Stützle, his exaggerations at times. And he's not the only one in the league. It's kind of a epidemic of the new guys coming in. Everybody's the head's back and they're staying down longer and they're selling stuff. And, this is just maybe me, old man, yelling at the clouds. Because when I played, you'd get, if you did that and you didn't stay, if you stayed down for like 10 seconds and we're out on the next shift, which happened a few times in Timmy's career, and you know, you'd have guys that would make sure that he was really hurt back in the day. And not to say that it was barbaric. It just was like, hey, we're going to try to play as clean as possible. But if you kind of sell something and then you're not hurt, and I just call a 2-minute on a guy, especially the refs. If you're looking at the refs, obviously not Timmy Pill, we know Timmy Pill, but if you're looking at the refs and a ref makes a call and then you're back next shift scoring a goal, selling like you're fine. Next time that something happens, the whistle might go in his pocket and then you might really get hurt. And that's kind of, you know, that's something that Crosby dealt with early in his career, you know, with the refs, and he kind of learned and really had to kind of, you know, now he's got so much respect because he's been in the league so long that he can just tear a strip off the refs. But, you know, like I said, when we tweeted that, we got into it. I love watching Tim Stützle play, and his skill and offense, he's very dynamic. When he gets motoring around the ozone is so good. There it is. But the exaggerating, and I put the air quotes, time to time when he gets hit, and we looked at that, we broke down that clip of Arbor Xhekaj, and I didn't mean in that necessarily specific play, but overall, if you look at his body of work through time, there are times, and you can agree, and we can both meet on common ground, that there has been a slight exaggeration. He's not the only one that does it, but he would make it way easier on himself and would probably give himself more room if he didn't do that, because guys watch and guys talk. And if you go into a locker room before a game and they have the Ottawa Senators lineup, and that'll be on the board, that'll be on the pre-scout, you know, guys will be like, he's a diver, you know, and it's not anything against him. It probably would say skilled, competitive, can dive, watch your stick, you know, this and that. And then guys see that and they go, they play him extra hard. I used to, when I'd play guys and they'd do that, I would absolutely try to tear off their low back, because I was tried to be as non-dirty as possible. I did get suspended a couple of times and I would have a mean streak, but I couldn't stand when guys would just do that a little bit, because I'm like, listen, I don't want to hurt you intentionally. And if I hit you clean and you get hurt, you know, it is what it is. But like, I'm not trying to take out your knees. So if you do that, I'm going to then maybe think twice when we're going to the corner next time. So yeah, so that's kind of where it stood. It was just so funny to get fans fired up, and we talked about it
Preseason too. Hey, it didn't even matter.
It didn't even matter before. And what's great is we were chatting about it before the show, saying like, and we talked about it a bit, like, I just love fans, how passionate they are and support their team. And fans were like looking for my address to find me and then cut my brake lines because I said exaggerate.
Oh,
and
man.
but yeah, so
I think, and no, it's a very fair comment, and Sens fans over the years have kind of noticed it more and more. I also think there's an aspect of it that he moves laterally so much as he's skating that when he goes down, he's going 100 miles an hour and he's going to go. I think what really bothers Sens fans is the fact that initial play where Brendan Gallagher called him out after, that was a blatant knee-on-knee hit. Like, it was as blatant of a trip as possible. And he goes off, TV timeout, then comes back on. So as you said, he was out there next shift and scored a goal. So I understand that from that standpoint. But that, out of all the examples that people could use, that was as clear of a trip as possible.
100%. And but the thing to know with that is this is now, and I'm not sure how many, what is this, year 5 for Timmy?
Year 5. Yeah, last year was his first one on the $8 million deal.
The book's out on him. So it's like anything, he's not going to get any favors. So it's going to take like a season of him not doing anything, because again, your reputation, once it builds, it's so hard to break that cycle. And then one play, and a guy like Brendan Gallagher, like, he's going to yell that, he'll see that, and they might not give him the benefit of the doubt. So, and you want him to have that, because you don't want to have a situation where he does get hurt because the guy's frustrated with him. Because again, you need the stars like him on the ice playing. If they're not playing, the league's not where it's at. And the league is the most exciting it's been in a long time offensively. And guys are so dynamic that you want to keep them on the ice, but it's like, hey, help yourselves out too, because there are some guys that probably let you off the hook a little bit. Obviously not Jacob Trouba, but other guys in the league will let you off the hook, but don't like make them look like an asshole, because then it's like, then it's game on, and then that's what we don't want. And guys blowing their knees out, or, you know, having a concussion because now it's not even, you know, we're playing with a bunch of guys from the AHL, which, you know, they're all working hard, but it's just not the same product.
Yeah, Tim Stützle, by the way, is 8th in the National Hockey League in penalties drawn since the start of the 2022 season. He's got a plus 35 penalty differential. I think he's just got speed and dynamic ability, Jason. That's all I see out there.
Shut up. That's so good. He does. And he does draw his fair share of legitimate penalties and some that are borderline. And again, when he gets motoring, I just think it's game over. And he looks even a little bit faster this year than he has in past years. So
well, you know what the best thing to come out of that Jack Eye hit was? He's now in his tinted visor area. He threw the tint on, and ever since then, he's just been a monster.
That gets me too. Like, what are you trying to stave off a concussion? Like, if you have a concussion, you're not playing. You're not wearing a tinted visor, for Christ's sake.
Well,
Quentin,
Quentin Byfield said on 32 Thoughts, he's like, apparently you have to have a prescription to be able to wear the tinted visor. So they use the littlest thing to be like, hey, give me
tinted. I know. I just dive head first in the boards and then get a tinted visor.
Yeah. Or you just hit yourself in the face with your stick, eh, Jason?
I would, exactly, like in Dallas. I should have. Right when I dropped my stick, I should have yelled for the tinted.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, Tinted Timmy Superstar is quite the nickname, though. We got to roll with that, eh?
Tinted. I like Tinted Timmy.
Tinted Timmy's fun.
Yeah, it's awesome. And hey, one of my takes this summer was like, hey, the first time, because we always talk about how Brady Tkachuk, he fights guys who have no business fighting him in terms of taking him off the ice for 5 minutes. He's fighting third pair defensemen, fourth line forwards. It's like, come on, fight Trouba at center ice at MSG for sure. But like, we don't need you fighting Tyson Tucker in St. Louis on a Tuesday night. All right. So I was saying, first time that Brady got into it this year, I just wanted Timmy to throw the eject button and go stand up for him.
That would be nice to see Timmy protect him a little bit.
Wouldn't it?
He probably would have held him off with one hand, but I mean, that's just Brady. Like, Brady, I don't think you can control him that way. And, you know, he's got a lot of shades of Matthew early on in his career, and Matthew's kind of really dialed that part of his game back. I mean, when he started, he was like running all over the place, you know, dirty hits, would fight. And now it's like he picks his spots a lot more. And that's just the experience of it. And I think Brady's going to get there, but I think Brady just wants it so bad.
Well, he did last night. He took a slash from Bortuzzo with like 3 minutes left in a 4-0 game. And I told Pillsy, I said, last year, Brady's dropping the gloves there 100 times.
And that's all learning. And I think he's going to figure it out. And I think they need him on the ice. It's just they're a better team when he's on the ice. And the fear factor, I think he's fought enough where players are scared of him in the sense, you know, some guys will be a lot less. Guys that aren't fighters won't really run around. Obviously, Bertuzzo's gonna. I don't think he needs to be having that fight. You know, I like Bertuzzo's game and the career he's had, but I mean, Brady doesn't need to do that, especially 4-0. So it's good on him that he did that.
Hope you're enjoying our conversation with Jason. We'll get right back to it. But first, Pilsy's got a word from one of our favorite sponsors.
Today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You more or less pick on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. Run your game all season long with Prize Picks. You heard me right, guys. You can win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. And you don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Prize Picks is the best way to win real money this football season. Do you know which players are about to go off? Which players are about to have a down game? Well, make your picks in less than 60 seconds and turn your sports opinions into real money all season long on Prize Picks. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONNHL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Check it out. Use code LOCKEDONNHL. Prize Picks. Run your game.
Today's episode is also brought to you by Gametime. If you need last-minute tickets, of course you want them at the lowest prices, go check out Gametime. Gametime has a new feature called Gametime Picks that takes out the fluff and only shows you incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. You can also toggle on the all-in button so that you don't have to worry about those pesky fees at checkout. You can also get a seat view, panoramic view from your seats. If you're going to Utah, you don't want to have an obstructed view. You want to be able to have it right in front of you. So get in on the action with the Gametime. Gametime has the best ticketing coverage in the service industry. And at Gametime, you can get $20 off because you listen to Locked On Senators. Just download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL. That's LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? Gametime. Now back to our conversation with Jason Demers.
With the Four Nations, what's it called? The Frozen Face-Off? What are we?
Last night, the Frozen Frenzy.
No, not the Frenzy.
The Four Nations Cup.
Yeah. How many players on Ottawa do you see making their respective countries' teams?
Oof.
There's one in particular I know Pilsy's fishing for right here.
Sanderson? You think Sanderson deserves it? Yeah, I think Sanderson. So. I think Sanderson. I mean, the one thing we can agree on is the American team is going to be the
good.
most talented and deepest it's ever been.
Oh, it's ever been.
I'm not going to say there.
Top end is.
Yeah, you still take. I mean, but Canada. The thing that it worries me with Canada is goaltending. You know, you got Binner. Binner's probably your guy.
Yeah.
Because
Montembeau's been a pretty up. Like
not last night. He
got no. But hey, he's playing against the worst decor in the league.
Yeah, I mean, you know, they've given up some stuff, but it's going to have to be Binner.
Yeah.
I think Skinner was in the hunt for it, and I don't know if the start he's had is kind of, but I think it's going to be Binner. I like his battle and compete level, but
should we trade a goalie with the States? Can we do that? They've got like 5 guys who would be the starter on Canada.
Hellebuyck's got it right now with the start he's had. But
Ottinger, Demko, I'm probably missing a few.
Well, Demko's if he plays again. I don't know how bad that is. That's
Swayman,
man, they're stacked.
Oh yeah,
yeah. I don't know what's going on with Canada and developing goalies. Like we just don't have what we used to have. I mean, shades of the old days, but now it's like it's a lot tougher. But the one thing I'm excited about is seeing those Tkachuk brothers play together.
Oh yeah, who's centering that line for you?
I'd probably put. I mean, I want to say Eichel, but I actually would rather Amats with him. Okay. I think Amats does such a good job of finding that high ice, and he has those two dogs on a bone getting pucks and making plays to him. I mean, he'll have I think it fits the best with Matthews because Matthews is a big body too, and that is a big line when you think about it. Oh,
big time. Hey, I'll throw you another one. Let's say you want to put Matthews with Kane or Matthews with like different skill guys. How about JT Miller and just have that as your checking line? just killing guys out there.
You have JT. I'd almost throw JT. I mean, they're so deep. It's crazy.
There's so many ways you can go with this.
Because you could almost put JT on the wing with Eichel.
Yeah.
Like you could almost throw him on the wing and have them be a tandem and really load up those lines. And I got to go through it because I'm sure I'm missing a couple guys in my head. But yeah, they're going to be exciting. It's going to be Werenski, Adam Fox,
and then McAvoy. I'd go Sanderson with McAvoy as a pair.
Yeah, that's a good pair.
Yeah, I love Werenski. Right now, healthy, he's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Question is do you bring Seth Jones and Werenski together, even though because they're so good together? Do you throw them together, even though you'd probably be missing a good D-man? But do you let Seth Jones go roll with Werenski? I mean, they were unbelievable together in Columbus. So, yeah, it's going to be that. I'm so excited to watch that. Like, I was talking to people on the network about it when I went to the Olympics in 2022, and then I was kind of making my way back with the Oilers, I always tell this story of like talking to Connor and Leon, and like Connor was like enamored to learn about the Olympics and like wanted to know and was so like focused. And I was like, this guy wants it so bad to play for Canada. And I'm like, he is going to go 6,000 miles an hour.
Crazy.
Like,
okay, while we're on this subject, who are you putting on his wings?
You got to throw Sid there, no?
You think? I know.
I just feel like one shift. Him and Sid.
Definitely. On the power play for sure.
Yeah.
But if you're building a team, don't you go McDavid, Crosby, 1-2 down the middle? McKinnon on one of those wings?
You can't not put McKinnon and McDavid together. I just think that speed is
crazy.
Is next level. I think them together would be absolutely something to watch for sure. And you could almost have Crosby in like a checking role too, but like, you know what I mean? Like, and that, how funny is that to say have Crosby in a checking role? They're going to be, it's going to be an interesting tournament, man. Like there's some good teams, and don't slouch on the European teams either. Like there's some talent. So I think fans are going to be in for a treat. So
from a player's perspective, do you think the players are going to get up for this tournament like they would for the Olympics just because they've been starved for that best on best international?
100%.
Yeah.
There's no reason. This is going to be so competitive. I just hope everybody gets there healthy.
Yeah.
But it's going to be a war, I think, for like those Canada US games. Like it's going to be Stanley Cup final intensity. Like this isn't like something guys are going into willy-nilly. Like, this is something like the guys wanted and like voted on, and usually the guys that vote on it are the top guys, and these guys wanted this, and there's going to be enough time to rest and stuff in between and before and after. So this is going to be something special to watch. I just hope the only thing is guys are healthy going in and healthy coming out, but I don't foresee many. Like there might be some injuries.
Well, you see that all the time. Sens fans are still, once bitten, twice shy with Dominic Hasek at the 2006 Olympics. Like that was their best opportunity to win a Stanley Cup, and he never was able to come back. So it's almost like you want your team's players there for the hype and being able to say, yeah, they're one of the 6 best defensemen on USA for Jake Sanderson's example. But then you're like, please
Bubble
don't
wrap
get hurt while you're there. Yeah.
Please
give him the cast that he had a couple of years ago. Bills?
Yeah, that'll keep him safe.
Yeah, exactly. That's going to be fun, though.
Oh, it's going to be awesome. Final question for me, Jason. Really appreciate your time. I always like asking players that get into the media when they thought that was going to be their career path. Was this something you were always interested in, or when did it become on your radar?
I was actually super opposed to it for a long time, and my Twitter footprint and Instagram footprint, I tried to keep really low and very private for a long time. And it was kind of near my last year, and I saw, 2 years before I retired, I blew my back out, and I did surgery, and I thought that was it. I thought I wasn't gonna be able to walk right or skate. I had, my whole leg was numb, and I had a lot of nerve damage. So I was like, I think this is it. Was able to come back, and in that off time that I had, I kind of saw the other side, so to speak. Not to be morbid, but I saw the other side and was like, it's not as bad as I thought it was going to be. And there is life after hockey, and we're blessed to be able to play this sport for as long as we can. But after there's a lot of avenues to enjoy life and find another passion. And we're lucky enough to be able to find 2 passions in our life where most people can only stick to one, and that's it. So, I started kicking around. A lot of people kept bringing it up to me. Hey, go do media, test the waters. I was like, I don't want to do it. I don't want to be one of those guys. And somebody close to me, my wife was like, I think you should really try it. Just test it out. And, the network let me come on and do kind of a quick hit piece for it. Like just a little hit. And I ended up staying for the whole show. And I was telling people, like, the 30-second countdown before my first show, like my heart was in my throat and I was like flushed, and I was like, oh wow, I haven't had this feeling other than playing hockey the nerves and the anxiety. And I was like, okay, this might be something that I enjoy. And I kind of get that every time, the little 10-second countdown of like, okay, it's time to, because you have to you have to put out a good product for the fans. Fans know what they're talking about. They're super knowledgeable. Like talking to you guys, like I can't be coming here like, oh yeah, Tim Stützle's, who is that? Like, it's like, I have to know, the Sens power plays humming and they're offensively, they're clipping at a good note. The little stat we had, like that's things I have to read because fans know it, but then fans also want to be taught things that they don't already know, which is the insight that we can provide as ex-players. And you just want to make sure that you put the right stuff out for people. And you're also, I learned near the end of my career, and since I've been in this, that like we're a big part of like keeping fans coming back, and like you guys as well. Like people want information and want to know the inside depths because they want to know about who they're rooting for, and they want to know who they're rooting against, and want to know all the little details and the nitty gritty stuff, because that's kind of what keeps you coming back, and the storylines that you build and all make together. So for me, it's been a crazy transition and really quick, but it's been really fun. I've enjoyed it. So it's like, and I as you've seen, Ross, and we both have had fun together. I have a lot of fun doing this because it's just, to me, I'm like, this is hilarious how much people care and the fandom of it all. And, I have so much respect for sports fans. So, and this is my way of trying to give back and keeping people in the mix.
Yeah, and that's awesome. You've done a great job so far, and it's been great having you on the show. Final question for me is, as someone that's so closely removed from playing, and now you're in the media, have you had kind of moments where you've been like, oh man, this is my buddy out here, but I kind of got to criticize him here. Otherwise, people are going to know that I'm just safeguarding my buddies here. Like, what is that line like when you're just retired and now you got to watch highlights and on national television point out your buddy's mistakes? Like, how do you deal with that?
Yeah, it's a fine line of honesty because the guys know when they make a mistake. No guy's sitting at home being like, I didn't make that turnover, that wasn't my fault. Every guy deep down knows when they fuck up. But it's also like you have to be honest with them. Obviously, you can do it in the right way, and we try to do it a lot of like, listen, these guys signed a contract, they earned their spot, they're NHL players, you're in an elite group of people, but because you're in an elite group, you're held to a high standard. And I held myself to that standard when I played and was super hard on myself, probably too hard, but I make sure to do it respectful of like, listen, these guys know better. This is a mistake that they can fix. It's easily fixable. And I always try to go that way of like, the thing that I never like calling out is lazy, like being like, hey, this guy was lazy or this guy doesn't care, because all of the guys care. And that's something that you really don't want to get into with guys. And I find some media people miss the mark when they're like, he doesn't give a shit, because it's like, we don't know personally what's going on with this guy. If you had some family issues, you look at what's going on with David Perron, like, that was going on weeks before he left. So it's for him, like, that worry was there, and it's the human factor. So I never want to get on that train, but being like, hey, I broke down something yesterday on the penalty kill. I was like, Scott Lawton's a fantastic player. He missed his assignment. He was supposed to be 2 steps this way. He wasn't. This is a mistake. This is why it ends up leading to a goal. It's not that he doesn't care. It's just his brain went to sleep for a second. So it's kind of like towing that line, but you have to be honest with fans. Like, fans will smell bullshit a mile away if you're like protecting your buddies. And so, yeah, I've had a few times where I'm like, oh God, I love you. But that was just, I'm like, oh, that was such a bad turnover, and sometimes hopefully if guys see it, and I don't know if they do, they realize that like it comes from somebody that played, and like I can see it and I know what's going on. I'm not calling them out. I'm just saying, hey, I've done this too. And, I had a ton of enormous turnovers that led to goals and been deked out before. Not that much, but I've been deked out before. A couple of times I've been put on a highlight package, and it's going to happen to everybody in the league. There's no one that's not been dangled or had a huge turnover in your career, it's just impossible to go through your career without making a mistake. Like there's not many guys that, even Gretzky made a ton of mistakes. So it's just being honest and letting those guys know, like, hey, it happens, and listen, it is what it is. Move on and don't be a baby. And there's, as you guys know, with the news cycle, there's something every minute, so it's going to get washed away eventually, unless like Ross and the Senators fans go digging deep on YouTube. You're going to find some shit, but it's already forgotten about the next day. So it is what it is.
I'm so mad that I like you now. I'm mad about this.
I'm pretty likable.
Oh, it sucks, man. I'm going to have to invite you back on the show. I didn't want to do this.
Now, Ross, are you exaggerating how much you like him, though? Or
I know so much. I like him so much.
He's going to turn the thing on, like, that guy was a piece of shit.
Jason, we appreciate it, man. This has been great. Appreciate your insight and the story of how you got into media. I think that's all great, and we'd love to have you back on down the road.
Yeah, I'd love to. And down the road, and hopefully the Sens are kicking for a playoff spot, because it's more fun when Canadian teams are in it. Because just I was at that Rogers building in Edmonton for Game 6, and that was the loudest thing I've ever heard in my career. Like it was crazy. There was one thing that made me want to come back out of retirement, was that game. I was like, I got to go to the gym because this is nuts. So I just hope Ottawa gets to feel that. And they have, felt that in 06 and different times. And, when they had those runs with Spezza and Alfie and the place was rocking, I think.
Well, this episode 1148 for us, and we've covered 0 playoff games. So we're ready to.
Yeah, let's get you in there. That's maybe it's you guys. Maybe you're the issue.
All right, Pilsy. First off, stick taps to Jason for joining us. That was a funny conversation, and we'll be having him back on the show down the road. Any final thoughts for you on today's show?
Yes, final thoughts for me is we continue to watch Carter Yakimchuk from afar. He got a little physical in his last game. Ross throws a couple punches, gets a double minor for roughing and a 10-minute misconduct, and also got in the mix offensively with an assist. So in 5 games, he's got 3 goals, 4 assists, and mixing in some physicality too. That's what we like to see from Yak.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that. I thought you were going to bring up Daily Faceoff's 32-team power rankings, where they have the Ottawa Senators 28th on their list, behind some pretty brutal started teams like the Buffalo Sabres are ahead of the Ottawa Senators. It just makes no sense to me. Nice little troll job by them over at Daily Faceoff, but alas, we digress. It is kind of what JD said, though, where all these analysts, they'd been picking Ottawa for a couple of years, so I guess they're not impressed by 4-2. So, hey, if you go into Vegas and Colorado, you come out with 2 wins there, I think you're going to see the narrative change in the national media landscape.
And hey, we're used to national media landscape not really giving us our proper respect. So keep dogging on the Sens.
I want to give all the respect to the citizens out there who ride with us each and every day in the postcast, after games, and daily on the Locked On Senators podcast. We've got Claire Hanna tomorrow on the show. We also have a game day preview next week. Kyle Bukauskas will join us, and a whole lot more. We're very excited that the season is ongoing. So for more, please like, comment, subscribe. Go check us out on YouTube, and please leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. For today, we say goodbye. Thank you so much for watching, listening, and engaging with the show. For Brandon Piller, I'm Ross Levitan. This has been another edition of the Locked On Senators podcast. Your team every day.